Hello, it's July 25th, and I'm wondering if you're good at having difficult conversations. It's something that I've been thinking about because it's a topic that's come up a lot in the work that I do, and it's something that I'm starting to realize that I have a lot of experience in. And I think that difficult conversations is something that a lot of people have difficulty with. And like when I'm thinking about this Heisen transformation, like the work that I'm so interested and passionate about is this personal development work because that's something that's really core to me. I think that that's the thing that keeps me moving forward. Constantly just looking and seeing how I can improve, not just on a like specific task level, but at like a core like myself kind of level. Um, and that to me means being able to feel comfortable in my own skin, to be comfortable in all the different spaces that I enter into. And there's like a number of different things that kind of contribute into that. So, like when I'm thinking about like the program that I'm working on, my approach has always been has traditionally been up until this point to look at it like um, as a program for personal development, a program for what's going on here, a program for personal development, or a program to like kind of like find your truest self, your authentic self, your I don't know, like is it like spiritual awakening, enlightenment, or an awakening process? I guess that has felt so. One of the challenges that I'm noticing that I'm having is kind of like talking about that and marketing that, like always trying to like lead it back to this bigger thing, this bigger problem. And maybe like I'm reflecting on it right now that that problem itself is too big for somebody to say like, oh yeah, like I I can see how that can be a solution to my problems right now that I'm experiencing. I think that it kind of works at some levels. Like there are people like life coaches and things like that that move along, that move kind of in that space. And that's still something that I'm very passionate about. So if you're looking to like have a new perspective on your life and looking to kind of figure out how to be more you on a day-to-day basis, get rid of burnout, less anxiety, less stress, all of these things, more confidence, unshakable confidence, then that's what the intention. That's like kind of my end goal. And I don't know that I've done a good job at like expressing that out. I think what's interesting is like it's easy enough to do in terms of like when I talk to my students, my clients, my patients. It's something that kind of comes naturally, and then or it's something that I've worked on over time to come naturally. The thing that I recognize kind of in all of this is that people are having difficulty having the conversations, and it's depends on topic. Like if you work in healthcare, you might be talking with patients who are not doing well. Maybe they got a new diagnosis. Maybe they had a family member pass away or die, right? Um, and even like death. The death is a big topic. Like I worked with I did a grief coaching seminar and training with a nurse named Erin, and the like that was such an enlightening experience. I find that I get a lot of inspiration and aspiration from seeing like all of this type of work, and it's really expanded my own way of interacting with others. Um, that is one of those things that really help me understand and be comfortable in having difficult conversations. If I were to go all the way back to the start of like how any of this work can lead you to more comfort in having difficult conversations, it was myself coming from a place of um, not being confident talking to other people. So like at the very base level of it is like, you know, if you go in and order, it's like, oh my god, like can I talk to a server and like make an order and all of these things. And I think that, you know, even talking in that kind of like service context where you're like, you know, I need a service or something, and feeling nervous about that, like that's a place that I think a lot of us start at. I see it in my kids when they were younger, and part of that is just like encouraging them to go and have those conversations. But then it kind of extends into other kind of like domains as well. So like even with friends, like I remember a lot of difficulty in connecting with friends and other people and even family members and things like that. Like family, it's a lot easier because it's like you're kind of like forced into proximity. I'm thinking of my cousins and like the time that we used to spend together as children. on long weekends and holidays and stuff like that. Um, in addition to them being like really great and fun people and like awesome people to hang out with. Um, and we have like that shared background and understanding like this, coming from the same family and like very similar upbringings or similar experiences. There's a lot more kind of connection there. But then as I continue to grow older or like have different groups of friends, I remember always feeling a little bit stressed out or confused of like the best way to interact. One thing that I often felt was like not necessarily being ignored, but like not knowing where to interject, and not knowing kind of where to speak up, or feeling like I was being overlooked or something like in some of those relationships. Like for the longest time, I never had any best friends, no besties. It was very much like a solo go at life. Um, and then like when I started into my relationship with Adrian, we were dating and uh, are married now. There's like so much that I learned from that whole experience, and there were a number of difficult conversations there because it's like you're working on connecting your life with the life of another person. They're coming from a different background, different perspective, and all of these different things. And that was probably one of those things that required me to flex a lot, like understand, like, okay, this is like, I want this relationship. And I know that there are things like I'm engaging or I'm having a part in the difficulty that I'm having, like the difficult conversations. Um, and that was a whole experience. And that was kind of like trial by fire in terms of like learning through experience. And even through that, the learning was slow. Like I knew that like I wasn't responding in the way that I wanted to respond to, and I wasn't saying the things that I wanted to. And even some of it, like the bulk of it, was not acknowledging or validating the things that like happened, and always like looking for some type of excuse. So like one of the difficulties in conversations is sometimes like you'll say something and then somebody will rebut it and say like, no, that's like I believe like the opposite of that. And usually the like my initial response would have been to kind of like and it was like just a innate reaction of like, no, like this is what I was thinking, like you don't understand me and all of this. And what I didn't realize was that sometimes other people do understand me. It's then I wasn't understanding the other person. And that was a big eye opener. Like now that I reflect back on it, of saying like, I need to like step outside of my own experience and look outside at other people and consider. Um, and for some time, I don't know that I thought about it very much, but when I did the hypnosis training in 2019, that opened my eyes again, because then that helped me understand the importance of context, the importance of listening to other people, the importance of the words that other people say. It's so um, there's so much that you can see and perceive and understand from the way that you observe people. And that's what I get when I observe other people. Just understanding all the different connections down through kind of like how somebody presents, what they say, the actions that they do, and then what the ultimate meaning is for me. And I went from a place of like operating from how like another person made me feel to trying to understand how another person felt. And I guess that at some level is empathy. Maybe a lot of people are like, oh, this is a natural state for me. And that's amazing. Like that is such a skill to have. And I can imagine that it can get tiring at sometimes if that is your natural state, right? I came from kind of like the opposite end of like not knowing how to connect to people and like having difficulty making those connections. And I ended up learning that a lot in terms of like what to see, how to connect with other people, a lot through hypnosis. And then the thing that really sealed it was understanding my human design, and that like changed the way that I interact with people, with opportunities, with all of these different things. So all of that is to say, like difficult conversations is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And ultimately, all of the struggle that comes from feeling like a conversation is difficult comes from inside you. Um, Think about it. Like everything that you experience is coming from inside of you. If you even look at it from a scientific, like mundane anatomy level, like all of your experience is in your brain. So if it's in your brain, it's inside you. If you're feeling it, you're feeling it. It's your feelings, but it's like it's not a real tangible thing that other people can necessarily see just by looking at you. Although like your internal states and emotions and feelings sometimes come through on your in your physiology, so maybe people can see it, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. I think ultimately what my reflection today is, um, maybe that I am identifying like a very particular piece of expertise that I have in terms of like understanding how to navigate and how to be comfortable in difficult situations, and then being able to see how those conversations happen based on, or what kind of factors contribute into that, um, by listening to how you engage as an individual. And then, of course, the deeper piece of that, like that might be a good place to start in terms of like talking about the things that I do, because ultimately I believe that the problem is you. um, I should have released that video now, and maybe like if I remember, July 25th. Today is the one when I can link that video into some space here. Like if I point like this and then nothing pops up, you'll know that I didn't get around to doing it, but it'll be on my channel somewhere, because I did record a video talking about how like you are the problem and I am my problem. Like I am my biggest problem. You're your biggest problem, because like those are the only things that you can deal with. Like your feelings are 100% valid and 100% real, and you are experiencing them. And at the end of the day, you're the one who's interpreting them as well. Again, it's not to blame the victim or anything like that. It's just to say that it's just a observation of an experience, right? Like your feelings are yours to experience. You felt them. What they mean to you is also yours. And sometimes we can see like if you think back about like feeling one way about one thing and then changing it in the future, given new information, like media, we see a lot of examples of that, especially like with people who were um, like TV shows or actors that were one way, and then the time happens, and then new information comes out, and then we see things in a different light, and then you may feel differently about things, ultimately, right? So that time, that dissociation, the additional information, the new kind of like states that you're fitting into, and then like collapsing it back onto old patterns, can change how you feel, and that's actually how like a lot of change happens, if not all change. So I think having all this time to reflect has been really helpful in understanding, kind of helping me get clear in the process. So this whole thing of like talking out and saying things into just like random space, and just doing it, right? Christian has been sending me, for whatever reason, a lot of like stuff about like posting regularly and just like doing things, like being natural on camera and like being yourself and being like your own kind of like unique kind of um, you, I guess, like to be yourself on camera. And sometimes that's kind of the hardest thing. So it's just interesting because it's like things that I've kind of thought, and just like some of the conclusions that came from those videos was like just go out and do it, and that's kind of what I've been doing, which is like to say like, oh, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit and continue going on this route. I do find that it's been useful, and if you find that it's useful to kind of hear another perspective, like just like moving through this, then thanks for being here. And I wonder if like difficult questions is something that you struggle with. Oftentimes when I get into working about things like this, it's like, okay, like difficult questions. What else can I call it? What other like kind of like fancy thing can I like frame it as? Like all your experience is a body field. And then it's like, now I have to explain to you what a body field is. Or I could just like use that term and then kind of like let it hang, is another thing. Or even like talking about the critical faculty as the dream gate, right? Like dream gate, that sounds pretty cool. But then there's a term for it, critical faculty. Is there any point in making a new term? Maybe, like if I want to be quirky and different, and maybe that's like my quirk and my difference. So I'm thinking about difficult questions. I'm thinking about difficult conversations, even like maybe difficult conversations is a better way of framing it, right? And like maybe like bringing it down to the deepest level is like learn to talk good. Like I could make a program like that. Learn to talk good. And that would be kind of like the basis of the Haizhen transformation. Haizhen transformation, learn to talk good. Go from someone who talks bad to someone who talks good. Anyways, that's my time for today. Thank you for hanging out with me, and we'll see you tomorrow.